Test, test, test. Last test.
Once again, like we were just discussing, And he's going to talk about the subject that I have always wondered myself, or well, maybe not always, but for many years, that how us software engineering researchers are like lemmings. We follow each other to some new topic, and suddenly we realize that everybody else is here. And then we go on and still jump to the next topic all at the same time. So please.
Can you hear me well from the back when I
will assist you that I will be full screen.
I think they tried.
No.
I think it's the setting that the taskbar is always visible. So.
Yeah. There should be an option to get this full screen, but
That one.
no, it's not doing anything. Sorry
Okay.
about this.
I already lost my surprise element.
No. Yeah. No.
Okay, yeah, much better. Audible from the back of the room when I put the microphone here. Okay, speak like this. Good. Great. So, thank you, Tommy, for the very nice introduction, and thank you, everyone. Very good morning to all of you, and being here in this early keynote session. To be completely honest, I sometimes use these sessions as an excuse after traveling to have an extra hour of sleep and a late breakfast. So really heart thanks for being here to listen to me. And also hi to anyone who may have joined online and listening to us. So, yes, I can confirm my name is Burak Turhan, and I have the most unfortunate surname for pointless. So, I'm a professor with the M3S research group, where we mainly do empirical software engineering. And Oulu is as nice a city as you. So while you're in Finland, if you would like to visit up north, please feel free to come, or make alternative plans for I don't know, upcoming software engineering conferences. Next year we are organizing one of them. Let's not make some marketing, but in June there's a conference, a major one in Oulu about software engineering. So you're more than. So it's go where the wind blows, a critical software engineering research. And today I plan to rant a little bit about software engineering research and the system we are working in. So I've been living for a long time, and I got very good at complaining about things. That's what I'm going to do. And I will talk very bluntly. That's also one of the Finnish ways. I will speak my mind. I left mine out at the door, so I hope you also left your academic egos out at the door. So you may not like some of the things I will be saying, but full disclosure, I am also guilty of many of the things that I will be criticizing. So in a sense, this is also a self-reflection of me. I mean, what I'm doing wrong, what can I do better in the most honest and open way, and without targeting any persons, universities, countries, etc., or research groups. Of course, in preparing this keynote, when the kind invitation arrived, it was an option to talk purely about my own research, some shameless self-promotion, if you may say. but of which I can still give some sneak preview, if you can bear with me. But the idea, I think, behind the keynote is to have insights and to speak perhaps some unspeakable things we don't have any venue for. So that's why I'm just going to share some insights. I hope that that's what you, the audience, also expects to hear. And sharing insights is at least what Pekka and Tommy instructed me to do so. And if you want to hear about great research, I'm sure that the PROFES program is full of those activities in the regular sessions. And one more full disclosure, I probably won't tell you many new things. So at some point you have been thinking about those. You may even have been discussing these here in coffee breaks in PROFES, or before you traveled here, you have been discussing those with your colleagues. My purpose instead here today is to put all of them together and just create a spike. And so we can start really talking about these things in software engineering, perhaps. And essentially, what I want to do is how I see what is wrong with software engineering research, why, some potential explanation, and what we can do. So after leaving this keynote, if you have some more mental activity around these issues, I would consider that a success. Who am I to talk about these things? So why you should trust me? So very quickly, a brief background. I have been all my professional life and academic more than 20 years now. So the caveat is that I have no industry experience, although I work with many industry partners. And I have been working, because I will come there, in the area of artificial intelligence and machine learning, but midway through my career, I changed the field into software engineering for various reasons. And since then, I've been working, or telling that I've been working in the intersection of AI and software engineering. So at the beginning, I was a very, let's say, quantitative person. Well, over the years, I learned to appreciate the qualitative approach to things and working towards more socio-technical side of the things. So I'm originally from Turkey. I got all my degrees from Turkish universities. Then for postdoc, I've been in Canada, have some insight into how things work there. Most of my time I spend in Finland at my current workplace at the University of Oulu. So many things that I say may be biased against Finland, but I also spent some considerable time abroad in universities in the UK and in Australia, including some management positions, getting in touch with industry. So I have to say that perhaps this gives you the idea, the background, that I have some background to talk about these things. So if you had a chance to check the abstract of my talk before coming here, it starts with software engineering research has an identity problem. So this is quite apparent to me with the descriptions that we use to, let's say, describe our work, and in the call for papers of our conferences, and in the titles of the papers that we are writing. So, okay, here it is. Nowadays, it's quite apparent, again, from the abstract of the talk. We see many calls in the form of software engineering for X. Replace X with everything and say software engineering for AI, software engineering for machine learning, software engineering for quantum systems. I've done a quick search. My search protocol is to go to Google Scholar, put in quotes software engineering for, and search the most relevant papers by their titles. You don't need to read it. I mean, this is the first 3 pages. So it's software engineering for security, for safety, for machine learning. Skip that. Automotive systems, agent systems, sustainability, okay. Big data analysis, mobility. Services and applications, AI-based systems, Internet of Things, self-adaptive systems, user interfaces, real-time systems, software engineering for web, software engineering for machine learning applications. So this is the first 3 pages. I didn't stop there. I went and checked the next 3. So these are the first 6 pages now. Let's go on. Yes, this is the correct one. So, again, SE for Internet of Things, web for robotics, AI-enabled systems, visual programming languages, SE for automated software reuse. This one is good. Search-based software engineering for software product lines. So, or even using some subfields. SE for natural language processing, real-life applications. What else? AI and machine learning. Quantum advantage, self-organizing systems. I didn't stop there. I went on. But I won't continue here. You can do the search yourself. And I think this is some kind of an evidence that my hunch is kind of correct. I also did the same for other engineering disciplines. I mean, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. They don't have the same pattern. So this is a pattern unique to software engineering. It's also apparent from the the number of search results that are returned. So my point is, we have an identity crisis. That's my first argument. And if we check the dates of those paper titles from Google Scholar, they will probably align with the hypes at the time. And nowadays, as we know it, it's AI and machine learning and partly quantum. And I believe we may be the only discipline doing that, positioning ourselves in relation to the hypes or how we can fit in, let's say, again, talking bluntly, where the money is. Okay? But who we are at the core as software engineering researchers, what do we do? And did we solve all the fundamental software engineering issues? Do we have this concrete, perfect way of developing software? All of these things are, I agree, are application areas where software engineering is at the foundation. So you can argue, yes, AI is software. There are many people arguing that AI is software. For IoT, you have to, I don't know, define protocols. It's kind of an architecture issue. You have to work with orchestrators, etc. It's all about digitalization at scale. But these are at some different domains. And as software engineering researchers, we also talk about we need to have domain expertise or need to work with domain experts where we do some kind of research. If we do some collaboration with, I don't know, healthcare professionals, we need to go and understand what are their problems, what constitutes the domain knowledge and get an insight about that. But when it comes to these kind of big research projects or fancy papers we write about all these kind of things, software engineering for X. It's strange how we are so fast in repositioning ourselves as software engineering. We rebrand ourselves. Whatever the hype of the time is, we are very quick to adapt to that. So I know many people who are now AI experts. A few years ago, working on, say, they were experts of requirements engineering, as they are, of course, in our field, but now they are AI experts. And it has been, I mean, in the past, there were experts for smart cities, there were experts for, I don't know, IoT, you say it. So just think what's your expert descriptor in your professional web page? Is it only software engineering, computer science, or from time to time update it to reflect, to catch up, increase your chances to be contacted? Is AI there? Is other kind of things there? I don't know. I think I recently added something to the university profile. Yes. So this is so fast. So if I'm correct, it started with in the specific to AI data mining in 2000s, early 2000s, and then it transformed into predictive modeling, software analytics. It was called at some point one particular area, and then it was suddenly data science, and then now it's AI and machine learning. And but what we do is actually repackaging the same thing that we do and call it something else. I'm going to give an example from defect prediction because that's an area that I've worked in the past. So defect prediction is trying to predict with some fancy machine learning methods where the faults will occur in the software system so that you can allocate your testing resources, etc. Okay, so and these defect prediction papers have been called data mining models, machine learning for software quality, and all kind of fancy names you can think about. And there are thousands of papers, perhaps tens of thousands of papers on defect prediction in very reputable venues, each claiming superiority over the state of the art, so they improve something. Just for defect, we published tens of thousands of papers that is better than the previous one. So we must have solved something by now. We didn't. So it's just okay. Well, at it, as you know, AI, it works both ways. So there is also this AI and machine learning for software engineering, where we tend to use either existing techniques from machine learning and AI to solve some software engineering problem or invent new ones. And I must admit there are some really relevant ones that work on a specific software engineering problem, and it's totally okay to borrow things from other disciplines. That's what we should do. But one increasing trend is perhaps nowadays some deep learning models to solve some minor software engineering problem. Okay, and you just propose a new architecture or a combination of deep learning architecture, and then just superficially demonstrate its effectiveness on some software engineering data. So here is my call to anyone working in that area. If you have a new deep learning or machine learning technique, don't publish it in software engineering venues. Try to publish it in machine learning venues where real machine learning experts will evaluate whether the technical things behind those are really proper. So I don't know we are that qualified to make such decisions. So I should shut up and move on. But perhaps I can talk about a little bit because it's kind of an emerging thing. Quantum. Well, it will be an overreach to claim that we should publish papers in physics journals. But it wouldn't be an overreach to say that if we want to work on quantum and software engineering, we should have some domain knowledge and understanding of the underlying principles of quantum. I doubt that we have it as a individually. Some people may have or think that they have. But I think it will be to have at least some physicists as reviewers in our journals to see whether our understanding of quantum systems is at a mature level so that we can build on top of that. Of course, I mean, let me change the tone around a little bit. It's important. I mean, there is a hype again moving towards that direction, and I don't see a trend, a shift, let's say e-commerce applications or many of the services that we use will shift to quantum computing infrastructure. I mean, it might be for climate modeling, protein modeling, where we currently use supercomputing and we need processing power or more kind of parallel efforts. I definitely don't think finance will shift to quantum computing. Even if they do, they will probably still keep their legacy systems as still do today. So there are areas that we may start working towards, like a paradigm shift in programming. Like it happened from serial programming to parallel programming, then we can think about and theorize, work on what we need, processes and tools, I don't know, anything you can think of, what we need to build, equip programmers with quantum programming, let's say. That might be a good area to investigate. And I don't know, maybe some interfaces, protocol design, how quantum systems will interact with existing or traditional computational techniques, infrastructures. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about research ideas. I'm just here today to rant about things. And of course, I'm not the first one, let's say, to raise this identity issue in software engineering research, and it's not limited to topics we are working on and how we define ourselves. We have a problem in defining ourselves in general, and Mary Shaw in 2016, was it Austin, Texas, ICSI, gave this keynote, and then she kind of compared software engineering with I think it was civil engineering that she contrasted with. And she provided an evolutionary path, how things evolve from craft through interaction with commerce and science towards a professional engineering discipline. And she made analogies to rule books of more natural science-reliant engineering disciplines to the abstractions in software engineering. And this is a summary slide from Mary Shaw, so I'm trying to summarize a keynote in my keynote. So, and how things work in practice when we conduct research. The basic ideas when we do basic research, how long it takes, what stages are needed to their popularization and commercialization. And she told it takes 15 to 20 years. Good luck with that if you want to have some basic research funding with your novel idea. I think I will be more interested here. So the greatest need for engineering is for the most critical applications. The slides are available. I mean, Mary Shaw's slides are available on the web. You can search. So my intent is not that you read them now. So, but here, this is on this quadrant. There are the application areas where is the greatest need for a more disciplined engineering approach, which are obviously more critical, safety critical systems like nuclear safety devices and medical applications. But my takeaway is how she defines engineering and then moves on to define software engineering based on that. One critical component of it is that engineering is associated with a level of assurance that protects the public health, safety, and welfare. So how do we do in that respect in our engineering applications? Software engineering research or the outcomes. So, and you know, she mentioned whenever we say software engineering, we refer to the NATO conference 1968, and then she reminded us and that it was a cry for help to get attention to the software development problem at the time. So it was an aspiration, I guess she was calling it, not a definition of what we do. So, how are we doing regarding to public safety, health, and welfare? to a kind of a controversial issue. We are a bit lucky, you may agree or disagree, that we have regulations in this quadrant for safety critical systems, medicine, aviation, those kind of things. So they force us to with more engineering approach. How do we do this? Or let's say social media. Engineering also sense, and is it engineering anymore? So it's about having accountability. And particularly AI and machine learning applications, the reason behind the call now some AI system behind it when you apply for a recommendation regarding my point is move on to this issue. Are you familiar with this recent development? In Canada, each province has, if there are any Canadians here, just correct me if I'm interpreting it. You need work as and you have to get accepted and get certificated. Of course, I mean, there are different things in play. You have to pay them a member fee, and then, but I guess regulate things. So engineers, like association, like health and legal professionals, for software engineering titles, and it was a big thing. So because anyone can be a software engineer, needs that you can just improve your programming skills, whatever. So they're off. We want the of Alberta to intervene and this is out of Alberta to other regions where there are no such regulations. Case as far as I know, and if it goes through, it may be because certification. The result is software engineers should have accountability, responsibility in a sense. In Canada, follow. And the whole Canada means all software engineers bringing certification. Think about the propagating effects later. Think about your own diplomas. I checked mine. If you have a degree in engineering, there should be a statement. The last part is still weird for me. Rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining. So I understand what it means, but it's a strange phrase. So it means that you have the right, I mean, you have worked hard now, you have the right to call yourself an engineer, but you have responsibilities too, okay? But in software engineering, we don't have that, because we don't require degrees. That's one of the things we discussed in the first day of PROFES among the software professors in Finland. So do we need this kind of push for certification? Shall we be that aggressive? Or I don't know. It's good, of course, to lower the barriers, allow everyone to colleges and bring programming to early education into continuing education, create awareness about software literacy. But then those people who have formal education on software engineering, is it fair for them to be on the same level with people who are kind of self-studying, let's say? Anyway, even if we don't have, let's forget about the certification. Let's say we are working as a software engineer. I mean, our students, you may say this is not about research, but we also have the educator hats, so we have to consider that. We have to have an opinion about this, so we have to talk about this. The closest thing that we can kind of follow is the ACM, the compute for computing professionals, not for engineers. It's for computing professionals. And I think it has, well, I have, let's say, interesting thoughts about ACM and IEEE, but this is one of the best works they have put out there. They have this code of ethics and professional conduct. If all computing professionals actually followed this one, we wouldn't need any regulation or anything. But unfortunately, human nature and corporate strategies and policies do not allow that. That's why regulations exist. Okay, what do you see in this picture? Moving on to another topic. That was a real question. What do you see in this picture? It's a horse. It's a horse, yes. So, the next thing I'm going to criticize is about how we write. Hence the horse. So, some coarse language to follow. Apologies, it's a quote. Kurt Vonnegut is one of my favorite authors. He is amazing in writing great stories in very simple language. Okay? And in his own words, he always, he wasn't good at being an employee, that's why he became an author. And he's a good one for that. Around mid-50s, he was working for Sports Illustrated. I think it's a big kind of a sports magazine in North America. And in the first day, they asked him to write a story about a racehorse who just escaped by jumping over a fence, and people chased for it. And that's the news to be reported in Sports Illustrated. So Kurt Vonnegut spent some time, actually all morning, and then in the afternoon he starts typing something, throws away, and then he writes a sentence, gives it to the editor, and quits his job. This is what happened. No need to, say it in other words. We write terrible papers. And we do a terrible job in reviewing those. We write too long papers, let's say. It's the result of styles that are enforced by templates that came into use by winning papers in certain conferences or in certain journals. We write terrible papers because there are lots of time pressure. We don't have time to do that, but we need to publish. Okay? We need to publish a lot. And there are people who publish in a weekly frequency, even in our discipline. And I don't know how they keep up with such thing. And they are called productive, prolific superstars, they are bad role models. Don't take them as role models. I'm not the first one saying this. Maggie's story, again an ICSI keynote, I think this time 2019. She gave an excellent keynote, and her message at the end was, write less, think hard, imagine more. As a community, we gave her a standing ovation after her keynote. And then we went and kept on writing papers, more and more. Okay? Why? We need to publish because the system requires so. We need to publish a lot. That increases our chances for getting more citations, having more H indexes, our evaluations, etc., etc. You know the whole story. So we love in software engineering adapting methods from interdisciplinary other disciplines, particularly, let's say, medicine, where we adopted the literature review guidelines. I had a chance to work with some people in medicine recently. You're not supposed to read it. This is the first 2 pages of the article we have written. This is the introduction. That's it. And it covers everything. There is no room for elaboration, let's say. Everything, I mean, the paper is, all medical papers are easy to read, fun to read. I get bored. I have, one of you here, when I send a paper for review, once send a confidential comment to the editor. I have headaches reading this paper. And I have that too, many times when I try to even publish papers. And they do have some other good practices. So this is gray part here. Editors do this actually. So they read the paper. When they sign as an editor that this is a paper to be published, they write a summary of what is already known on the topic, what question is studied, what the study adds to our knowledge, and how this is relevant to clinical practice. So here is something that immediately communicates what this paper is about. Why don't we take these kind of things to use? We try to. PER has this design science visual abstracts for some papers like these. How many papers have you seen using that one? A few, yeah. That's about paper writing. There are more things to say, but I'll move on. I'm mindful of the time. So, we are terrible at research methods. 2 examples. This one says 1 in 5 of all MSF papers that claim to have conducted an experiment indeed conducts an observational study. It's not an experiment at all, but the research method was called experiment. This one by Golden says, by the time published, I guess, 2021, the latest 100 case studies returned by Scopus. 50% of them were not case studies at all, but they were published as case studies. We don't know our methods. We don't know how to, again, it's time pressure or, I don't know, all these fast-paced things. We are very good at conducting systematic literature reviews and mapping studies. At one point, I think every other paper in software engineering can use a literature review or a mapping study. I think it's getting better nowadays. And by the way, the systematic literature reviews in software engineering are not SLRs, because an SLR in medicine is for comparing 2 interventions, 2 treatments. We don't do those kind of things in software engineering. We usually do mapping studies. Okay? And there is improvement, but we do a terrible job at that too. The intention is to synthesize them. We don't. We just provide bibliometric information. Okay? And considering thousands of mapping studies out there synthesizing the research. They should offer us a roadmap for further research, identify research gaps. So we have conducted all those mapping studies. How did we follow up with those research gaps? Shall we stop doing literature reviews and do the research that we identified in the already published literature reviews? That's the other thing. We are still immature in that sense. Because if you want to publish, it needs to be empirical. And there are papers out there that classify themselves as empirical papers without referring to any research methods. That's also another thing. There are no venues to share our opinions, ideas, exchange things. Not in ICSI, for example. This is a Photoshop version of something in one of the ICSIs. We turn our mainstream conferences into show business. We just go there to show face. It's turning into something like that. We just tweet from there. We just like to be there. I mean, there are good papers in ICSI. Of course, I mean, I wouldn't claim so much to do that. But it becomes a big thing to go there, but we all know it's a lottery. The review system behind there has many problems. Rather than solving those problems, we try to, they try to solve the organizational issues, introduce more committees, more layered hierarchies into how we review papers. They don't try to fix the quality of the reviews. This is not a specific issue for software engineering. This reviewer problem is a known one. We are the reviewers, no one else. But there are some software engineering specific efforts, whether you like it or not, to fix those issues. I'm referring to those controversial reviewer guidelines, for example. But that's one thing we need to fix. And in many cases, I mean, we bounce our papers from ICSI and then send it to some journal, some usual suspects with no specific order, just try to focus on some different publishers, IEEE, ACM, Springer, Elsevier. So they have their own problems. The review problem is also there. And I'm in the boards of many, except CSE. And the pressure is always on. We need to make decisions in 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, depending on the paper. And we need to chase for reviewers. I'm again going to point to Per, which recently shared in Twitter that, was it 25 reviewers who declined? Something like that. I mean, we all have same numbers. That's okay. Because one of the things that I'm going to recommend today is reduce your reviewing for journals. Because we do the work, we do the writing, we do the reviewing, we do the handling process. They get the copyright. They do nothing in return. They don't provide anything regarding professional editing, copywriting. Putting IEEE software aside, they do a good job in that one. And I'm putting empirical software engineering aside because Tom and Robert are doing a good job in having a no deadline policy, as long as it takes policy to ensure the quality of the papers. But publishers, wow, what a business it is. I mean, we do all the work for free and they get all the money. And then they sell it back to the universities at ridiculous costs. And then sell individual articles to members of public at ridiculous costs. So we have to do something about that. I'm going to skip this one. So this is again criticizing the kind of publishing industry, but I think my point is already there. So I'm going to quickly sum up. I may be a little bit over time. This is my ugly picture, big picture. I need to work on my design skills. I have never been a good designer. But this is what I can think of when I put all the reasons together why we are in this stage. It's all very well connected. It's the nowadays what is called the neoliberal university, or in the past corporate university. I guess it is the corporatization of the university. And yes, the university system has changed over, I don't know, for 50 years, perhaps 100 years. And the most, I would say, change throughout the world was in the 80s with Ms. Thatcher and Mr. Reagan. So what happens here are the actors. The university, when you sense something, if you're into crime novels or financial crimes, follow the money and then to see what's going on. We have the corporates here. We have the university here. The university's traditional kind of mission has been to create knowledge, which is just a side thing nowadays. Okay. The universities are used to be publicly funded. Not anymore. The basic research funding, it gets smaller and smaller, either through research funding agencies or based on how many students we graduate. So the more students we graduate, the more basic funding we get, depending on the country, the universities from the state. We are asked to find money from external sources, like corporates. I don't even want to put philanthropy here. Get their money by working on their technological interests, not our own academic interests or freedom. And they have the power to affect the policies at the state level. They have seats in the university boards, no less than 50%, that they almost have the majority. They affect the university hierarchy. How many times have you gone through a restructuring of the university over your career? The departments, some kind of restructuring, merging departments, splitting faculties. I have gone through 5. And as academics, we need to do research, advance knowledge, publish them, teach students, do all the admin work, subject to key performance indicators, and it's run like corporate. Students are customers. They evaluate our teaching. These affect university rankings. We do research, we publish them in journals, conferences. They are ranked, they are evaluated based on that. Universities need more students to bring in more money. So the world is the global stage to attract students. And in rankings. And rankings, they have unjustifiable kind of methodology. Let's not go there. And the idea is the students, they go out as already graduates that can work towards business interests rather than some skilled people with advanced knowledge. So we'll throw out as many as possible, like the culture. 99% may fail, but if we have through here. I think I can talk on this picture perhaps an hour.
It is time for conclusion.
We can't change that individually. We can change that collectively. Perhaps not in our lifetime. So it's not up to us. But there are some personal actions we can do. So I will briefly. So be selective in your collaboration, research areas. Define what you want to do for the companies. You are not consultants. You are brilliant scientists. So do collaboration that also works for money is tight, and software engineers are really really applications. When you receive a grant application for, let's say, software engineering, if you agree to review it, do not write good reviews, write excellent reviews. Otherwise, with other disciplines, any reviewer misconduct. Do a great job, excellent job in reviewing papers. Improve yourself. Publish less papers. Publish better papers. Reduce your conference tourism. Perhaps you have smaller conferences which are better for exchanging ideas and to collocate all of them in one place. International Congress of Software Engineering, where PROFES, EASM, I don't know, all the conferences that are smaller scale compared to ICSI can be collocated. And we just travel to one place. Use open science, register reports. Internal culture, senior colleagues, and change. Be a good role, particularly when it comes to work model. Publishing 50 papers per year is not a good thing. Don't promote it. Don't applaud people who do that. People, responsible research assessments. Forget about rankings, H indexes, citation counts. When you receive an email from Times Higher Education, QS, or some other university, don't promote your university's ranking in your social media or professional accounts. Don't work towards that direction. I already said reduce your reviews for these publishers, but I think the most critical thing is identify, we have as a community, find an identity, work together, and explain to the public why software engineering is needed as a fundamental discipline. So, okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Pekka here is messaging that we are already at the coffee time, but I think we still take a couple of questions from the audience. So please.
So I'm John Knoll from University of Hertfordshire. As a keynote, of course, it has everything we want. Controversial, gets your hackles up. There's a lot I could have disagreed with, but the one thing I want to agree with is your penultimate point about supporting each other. I once served on a National Science Foundation proposal review panel for software engineering related proposals. And the program officer was quite amazed at how critical we were, where when he did physics-related proposals, 80 to 90% would be approved, and the job was for the agency then to rank them and fund the ones they could. We rejected 80%. We had 2 left, and there was money left over. As a result, we had to choose from the rejected proposals because we were too critical. So I applaud the notion that we should be supporting each other instead of competing.
Thank you.
Burak, I wonder about the notion of novelty, which we have inherited a lot from computer science. I have a hypothesis that we too much focus on novelty rather than utility or relevance or something. Do you have any comments on that?
Sure. Of course, science progresses with some novelty, but publishing this many papers, let's say, how are we expected to be that novel? I mean, how many great new ideas can you generate? I have over 100 papers. They do not correspond to more than 100 great ideas. I probably have 1 or 2 that I can highlight. And for many people, perhaps in my career, now I will be stuck, and it will be one great idea that you would push for. So that's where the novelty goes for. And we need also to scientifically investigate trivial things. There are lots of hypes about software engineering because some consultant out there says this is the way to do this. You should do it that way. And we are very good at conducting those empirical studies and try to collect some evidence whether something works or not. However, I mean, it doesn't matter how much trivial they sound, we need to collect evidence for that. And that doesn't necessarily need to be novel. We need to be focusing on the method side. And on the other hand, like you said, we need to focus on the relevance and utility side because we shouldn't forget that this is an applied discipline.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Andrea here has a couple of words to say.
Okay, so now that the room is nearly full, I would like to give a great applause to Tommy, Pekka, and the whole organization team for organizing PROFES that well. In particular, the dinner yesterday evening with the Viking experience. I see many of you are now awake, so hopefully you survived the Vikings dinner. So the experience I made was a little bit strange, but I must say, in the end, I loved it because many people had some fun with it, so it was really nice. Pekka, thank you very much for that. Also the team, the students, Raoul, Tommy, so not to forget anyone. Where's the other one? I missed someone, or not? Yeah, David. Where is he? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so thank you very much. And the other thing I wanted to raise is the challenge Pekka told us yesterday with the badges. So I hope that the green cards all publish their photos to wherever, so somewhere in the cloud, so that the competition can go on. And I liked it very much because I think that's a great opportunity exactly to what Burak told us. So we have to work together, we have to find ourselves, to discuss with people, to be more open, to share research ideas. And what I also like was some papers, in particular, also the best paper award, it is not only from one group, it's really showing collaborative research, and that I think that's really a good trend. Which is observable for the last, let's say, 5 years. It was completely different in the beginning when we had only papers from individual authors pointing out some very small, tiny things, and now we have those collaborative papers. So thank you for being here, and hope